when we drove up. It was scary, seeing the barbed wire over the fences, and I felt very ill at ease. And I was surprised about how young the prisoners are. Not all of them, but the majority are very young women. And of course, they're just like you and me, and I mean, you can't tell by looking at anyone that she's a prisoner.
Started drinking an awful lot in my early age, and I just drank constantly. And then my mother, she eventually died, and so then everything just went downhill from there, and I just kept getting into more trouble and more trouble with the law. And this isn't my first incarceration. Prior to this, I was in another prison in Pennsylvania before it extradited to here. My total charges in all states was 81 charges, and it was the end for me. I thought that was life in prison now, and one day I just couldn't take any more, and I yelled out for God. Didn't even know about a God, but I yelled out, "God help me." And he came to me and he helped me. Little by little, things were starting to change. The congregation here in the prison is wonderful. I've never been in a prison and had a congregation like this. Before the prison I was in, we didn't even have a church. We didn't even have a congregation. We had a chaplain, that was it. But here it's different. It gives you a sense of togetherness. It gives you a sense of being wanted, and things you don't have on the outside if you're alone. And so today I know right from wrong. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm headed. I know that God's the answer, and I know that he's helped me. And I was the lost one. He wasn't. He found me. I didn't find him. So basically that's where my life is now.
I was 15 years old, and I ran away from home. And I haven't seen my parents in 11 years. And I got into drugs and a lot of other things that I shouldn't have gotten into. And it's a lonely world, and I thought that's all I needed was drugs, until it got to the point where I didn't have anywhere else to shoot, and I was stealing checks in order to get money because I was tired of selling my body, and I just turned to stealing checks, and that brought me here.
And blessed be those who are weak, for you shall inherit great strength.
And then there was a girl in my typing class, her name was Louise Shelton, and she told me about Community of St. Dysmas, the church in which she went to. So I started going there. It was something that I'd never felt before in my life. Because when you come from the world in which I lived and all the things that I had to do in my life, then the feeling that I got the night that I was baptized was a feeling that I'll never forget.
In here, I think you learn not to expose a lot of real feelings, because if it's negative feelings, then you're leaving yourself open for a fight. If it's directed at a guard, you're leaving yourself open for disciplinary action. And if it's a positive feeling, it's kind of a weakness, and it's not something that you want to show, so everything gets to be real shallow and surfaced. And you could kind of let that down on Saturday night for the hour in the Fellowship of St. Dismas. I learned a lot as far as being able to communicate and love people and care about people, within the confines of these gates and these walls that's around this prison. There was still love and freedom and caring for that hour.
Love, freedom, and caring for that 1 hour of worship. That 1 hour of worship quickly became 2 hours on Friday evenings for the men of MCIJ and on Saturday evenings for the women of MCIW. An hour of worship followed by something for which most inmates hungered, simply to sit and talk with visitors from Lutheran congregations on the outside. In 1986, over 1,100 visitors representing 40 area congregations and 15 out-of-state congregations across the nation worshiped at the 2 St. Dysmas services. That linkage with outside congregations not only became absolutely essential to the survival of St. Dysmas as a congregation, but to the survival of its members, both in and out of prison.
A lot of these guys have never been paid attention to their entire lives. They know nothing of what love means, and one of the issues is that you know, the Bible talks about love. Without love, you have nothing. And the volunteers, I think, show a degree of love that has never been shown to these people for an interest, and that in itself has been a key to changing people's lives in these penal institutions.
The importance of the outside visitors from the other congregations, from our support congregations, I can't tell you the value of it. It's the thing that I think keeps most of these guys going back to church, just to have input from the outside world.
There was such a spirit that you could feel. We would sit through the service, we would enjoy ourselves, we were allowed to touch, we were allowed to hug. And the best part was there was somebody there from the outside. There was a congregation there that was going to share an hour or so with us. Somebody that would come up and say, I'm so glad I got to meet you. Got to meet me? I mean, I have a record. I'm a criminal. Not to them. I'm an individual. I'm a human being. They were giving me self-respect. As I continued into this, my self-respect for myself grew. I grew. I learned to be able to love. I learned to share.
He kicked my teeth out my mouth and done a lot of little horrible things. So finally he did. He went to jail. He went to jail when my son was 1 year old. My son now is 18. So time went on and I started losing my home. I had to go back to my mother. And I would go back to her. And she made me feel really unwanted. She would throw slangs like, get out my house, or I can't deal with this, or I don't want this one here, or, you know, and it was getting to be too much. I'm grown. I had no business there anyway, but I felt like this is my mother, and if I ever needed any support, I would always have a home, but it wasn't like that. I had 3 court charges because I was out there stealing, trying to make it with 4 kids in a house, gas and electric and telephone, so I went crazy. I got a drug habit, I got kids, and I got a house. And I couldn't do it all by myself. So you can sort of like say, I just threw my life and let it go either way. Either I live, either they send me to jail or I die. I think I asked for it.
And I think he's saying that God is most present in those worst of situations because that's the way God is. He goes to where the hurt is the greatest. And he's the one, remember, who will leave the 99 and go after just one who is dumb enough to walk off and get lost and fall in a crack in the canyon.
People come from out of town, you know, just to come down there to see us women, and, you know, and I feel like if they go through that extent to come from California, Louisiana, you know, and we have had them there, you know, and we must have meant something to them, you know, and they say they're going to keep coming back, you know, and they said, I hope to see you someday in one of the congregations, and it made me feel real good. It made me feel like I've been accepted, you know, not just by my immediate family, but my family and the congregation, you know.
It's very important for the inmates to know that people on the outside care about them. So for the people from the church to come in and let them know that they are loved and that they are still people, that they still have identities. I was walking out with very little to go to besides my daughter. I felt with the church that I had a family to go to, and it made such a difference. It made me take those steps a little faster. It made those steps more important to me and much easier to get to.
The residents in this place are just like the rest of us. We are all looking for hope, all searching for love. We found it here. The music helped, the words helped, but sitting next to people and talking to people was the thing. I would say heart to heart was the most meaningful experience for me in this whole thing. We came on a cold night. Someone at church said to me, "What will you talk to those people about?" Well, those people are us. We are all the same.
If we do not believe as correctional professionals that inmates can be returned to the community to maintain a lawful lifestyle and successfully reintegrate themselves into the community, who else do we expect to believe that? And the community of St. Dysmas for us has been a marvelous way to introduce them back into the community, but with a very supportive structure. And quite frankly, for a lot of adult female offenders, without that structure to go to lean on, their likelihood of successful reentry lawfully into the community in the long run is diminished. And it doesn't mean that every woman who's joined the community of St. Dysmas has left here and been a success. But we have women who have, while they were here and were part of the community, you could see that they truly began to believe that somebody was going to be there for them when they left here.
They do get a chance to put their life back together in a normal way, and they don't have to, you know, wait on somebody to unlock the gate for them, and they don't have to be told to do this and do that, but they can go back to a kind of a normal life, and hopefully to a better style of life. So that really keeps me going. We are probably the only congregation in the nation who just loves to lose members.
I miss a lot of the members down there, but not enough to go back to Jessup, you know. I think Jessup was my last stop.
And I honestly believe that I'm going to make it, because you see, when I leave, I'm not leaving alone.
Jesus, remember